Welcome to Midlife Matters, where we celebrate women's wisdom and wit. I'm Georgian Lussier, your host, and I'm delighted to introduce today's guest, Dr. Carrie Andreoletti. She is a professor at Central Connecticut State University, and she is the coordinator of a very exciting new set of programs on gerontology, and she's here to share all that information with us and leave us much more informed. Welcome.
Great. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. I would think studying aging has so many different benefits to it. I mean, people can look at it as career opportunities. They can look at it for information about their own sense of aging and find out really what research says compared to some of the myths that we'll be discussing. And also they might be in a caregiver role. So whether it's professional, individual, or family issues, I would think taking a serious look at what we're learning can help people in so many ways, right?
Absolutely. We're all developing people. We're all getting older. And so gerontology is a really important field. We don't really get educated about aging, you know, not in elementary school or high school, and in college only if you take a course on aging. So I think it's really important that we all, take advantage of opportunities to educate ourselves about aging and what it means to age well, so that we can help ourselves, but also our family members and our loved ones.
And society in general.
Right, absolutely.
And so we're going to be talking about some of the international activities and then closer to home. Am I correct that this is a fairly new field of study?
Not really.
Okay.
It's been around for quite a long time. A lot of people, though, don't still know what gerontology is. And for years and years, the message has been out, we're aging, this is an important field. And maybe now that the baby boomers are finally actually entering the later stages of their lives, people are paying more attention to gerontology. But it's not really a new field. And it's the study of aging, and it looks at the aging person from kind of a biopsychosocial perspective. How does a person age physically? What are the psychological implications? What are the social implications of the aging person sort of within their family context, their community, broader society? And then also, what are the implications for society? In general, the fact that our population is getting older, people are living a lot longer and a lot healthier too, it's important to say, right? So we're living longer, but we're healthier and we're active for much longer periods of time than maybe generations ago. It's important to understand that. A 70-year-old today looks very different from the average 70-year-old, 50, 100 years ago.
Absolutely. And being in Connecticut here, we have an aging population statistically, that's a little bigger perhaps than other states where there's maybe more transfer of people in and out, and we're the land of steady habits and all that. But some of the statistics are very interesting, like a quarter is going to be overaged 60 or 65 in X number of years.
Right, yeah. Right? So we're the 7th oldest state in the nation. We have the 7th highest side of median age. And by 2030, the estimate is that about 25% of Connecticut's population will be over the age of 60. And, despite ideas that everybody moves south, really people want to age in place, and people are staying in Connecticut and want to stay in Connecticut as they get older. But it's happening in Connecticut, and it's really happening nationwide and worldwide, that people are living longer, and our demographics are changing. It used to be a population pyramid. Now it's a rectangle. That is going to change how we live our lives and how we function in society.
And what is Central Connecticut State University's history with this whole program?
I had a minor, an undergraduate minor for a long time.
I know you're the coordinator, and we can delve more into what some of the offerings are.
I joined the faculty in 2004, and I was brought in to sort of maybe breathe some life or energy into their interdisciplinary gerontology minor, which I think it was started somewhere in the 1990s, and then I replaced the person who started that program when he retired, any major could specialize in gerontology and aging. A lot of psychology majors, sociology, communication. So that program is really strong, and it's grown a lot in the last 10 or 15 years. We have a really great group of students who are very motivated and excited to pursue careers related to aging and gerontology, so that's wonderful, because a lot of students come into college saying we all want to work with kids. Everybody thinks they want to work with kids, and they haven't always considered working with older adults. They didn't even know that was an option. They've never tried it. So we try to give them opportunities to work with older adults, get to know older adults, understand the career opportunity. And our newest program is a graduate certificate in gerontology, and so that's kind of like a minor in a way at the graduate level, and that is designed for all kinds of people. In order to apply, you do need to have a bachelor's degree or higher. It's designed for working people, because the classes are offered in the evening. A lot of our classes are hybrid, so they're half on ground and half online. We want to meet our students and we want to interact with them, but we understand it can be hard to get to campus every week. The program is geared towards working people, people who maybe are already working in the field of aging. A lot of people find their way into the field and they haven't had any formal training.
Right.
So this is a great way to provide some context and to sort of beef up your skills in that area. We have students right now, a couple in the program, who are working on their master's in health psychology. So they're interested in sort of community-based prevention programs and health prevention. And so they're going to get this expertise in gerontology that they can apply to their health degree. A lot of people interested in health sciences or social work, the social sciences, are interested in gerontology. As you mentioned at the beginning, caregivers, often women, not always, but who find themselves sort of caring for their parents and trying to navigate the systems and the public policy, develop an interest in trying to improve life, right, for all of us as we get older. So they might have an interest. People who want to change careers and maybe find something related to aging, or people who maybe have a career in marketing, or one woman who's just starting our program is an attorney and a teacher, and she wants to come back because she wants to become an advocate for people and use her law degree, but then add on that gerontology expertise. It's designed to be for anyone, really. And there's 3 main classes that are required. One is kind of a introduction to gerontology at the graduate level. Another one focuses on public policy and ethics when working with older adults or on behalf of older adults. And then the 3rd required class is the psychology of aging, which focuses on cognitive aging and mental health. So those are required. And then 3 additional courses will depend on what do you want to do with the degree, right? You could do research, you could do a writing course, an entrepreneur course, learn how to do some evaluation research to assess programs maybe that a nonprofit is doing. So,
and people do some internships?
Yes, absolutely. People can do internships. It's not required, but for a lot of people, that's a great opportunity to get connected with the Aging Network in Connecticut and some of the organizations that are working for older adults. So I think that's one strength of our program. There are online programs that you can sign up for, but it's all going to be online. You're not going to have the same connection to the Connecticut Aging Network that you are if you just do an online course. So I think that's a strength of our program, helping to connect our students with what's going on in the state of Connecticut.
Absolutely, and I would think that networking is so key, because if someone hasn't worked in a particular aspect, maybe they've never worked for a nonprofit, or really are looking to get themselves credentialed as having this focus area that they can offer, and maybe they could become a program director for a nonprofit, or so many different careers they could pursue. It's an exploratory process, I would think, to some extent, right? It's not like doctor, lawyer. Right. It's, you almost can design it yourself a little bit, I would think, as far as how much enrichment opportunities you want to try to take advantage of with just exploring, really.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a strength and a challenge, right, of a gerontology education. Is it's not like teaching or an MBA or a nursing degree where then you just go look up people who are looking for nurses. It's a little bit, you know, you have to be a little bit creative in getting, thinking about what exactly you want to do with it and getting your foot in the door. There's no question that there's a huge need for people to have better understanding of gerontology and normal, you know, what it means to age optimally or well versus so many of the negative stereotypes that people hold, they hold as truth, right? And so we need to help people to think differently about aging and the opportunity that comes with getting older.
Some of the logistics around that, if someone's listening and they're saying, well, I'd like to, you know, look into that a little bit, I imagine just going on the university's website.
Right, yeah. So if you go to ccsu.edu, there's an A to Z index. You can look for graduate studies. The School of Graduate Studies, go on their main page. You could also go to our Gerontology website and find information about our different programs and also contact information for me.
Looking at some of the material you provided to me, let's talk about, what, as you mentioned, some of the assumptions that get made that we probably all subscribe to, these myths around aging. One link that you provided to me, I saw someone speaking, and I believe it was an introduction to reporting some very serious study in the field. They talked about the idea that there's partnerships going on around this. So one area we haven't really addressed so far is economics, right? I mean, the economics of what the aging population, the impact that they have on our economy. It was like Merrill Lynch or someone like that was one of the partners, and I thought, well, what, isn't that a little bit of a surprise to me? I would think of it more being in the social sciences fields and the universities and so forth. And then again, some of the information I was looking over talked about, for example, older people tend to be compose a bigger part of philanthropic giving, like something like $1 trillion that change hands. You know, they're more likely to be donating, they're more likely to be maybe passing money on to their heirs, or, and so attorneys, et cetera, again, that would be a expertise to gain. Really, every aspect of life has people at this stage. Sure.
I mean, we so often hear in the media, you know, it's all doom and gloom and negative things about our aging population, and really, older adults today are some of the wealthiest, well-educated, you know, cohort, and they contribute a lot, like in this report, to the economy. We should be paying attention to that. I mean, it's really an opportunity more so than it's a drain. I mean, certainly not. There are people who are at risk and don't have the money to care for themselves should they get sick, but we sort of miss all the positive part of it, of how much older people are and can contribute in a lot of ways.
Some of the myths that we can just dispel right here and now. So myth is that when you pass 65, you go downhill quickly and end up in a nursing home for years and years. And survey says not so much.
Absolutely not. Less than 5% of people over the age of 65 will spend time in a nursing home. It's just such a small percentage of our population. And even if you consider people, you know, 85 and over, that's still less than 20% of that older population. Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about that. You know, aging is kind of a slow, graceful process, really. We don't feel like it. People don't think of it that way. But, yeah, it's not all downhill at 65. In fact, research shows well-being goes up. Right? Starting in even late 50s into 60s, it continues to go up. You can keep learning, you're gaining knowledge.
Doing new things. You could have a community TV show.
Exactly. Hey. Yeah. You can have a whole new career, which many people do, right? They retire and then they say, now I'm going to do what I really want to do.
And another one that I love new terms. You know, I'm kind of a fan of new words. The myth about older workers being less productive. This idea that this crystallized intelligence, maybe it's not new to most people, but it was to me, the core base we have, right, that tends to hold pretty steady.
Right. Over a lifetime, we gain so much knowledge and information, and you don't just lose that. Maybe you process information a little bit slower as you get older, but older people have a wealth of knowledge. They're able to learn new knowledge, and we really need to tap into that. And there's just no evidence that older adults are not good workers. They're more reliable than young people, some data suggests. And I think one of the challenges is that employers now really need to figure out, how do we harness the strengths of these different generations in one workplace. I think employers are starting to think more about that. We need to help the different generations understand and value what each bring to the workplace. That's better for everyone.
And the idea of creativity and inventiveness. I mean, creativity doesn't know how old you are, basically.
That's
and
true.
Sometimes we are less self-critical and can free ourselves up and weave together, again, things we've picked up over the many years. I was chatting with you before we started in this book called The Secret Life of the Grown-Up Brain. She talked about bilateral sparkle. So, okay, maybe those processing wires, things are moving a little slower, but there's signs that we get very adaptive about accessing different parts of our brain, right, to just compensate for maybe the way we were A to B to C in earlier years.
Right.
Also, I think older workers, being a human resources person, you know, less drama in the workplace. We've kind of been there, done that. Be the adult in the room, work ethics, and maybe taking the long view on some things, so that probably is kind of linked with the drama a little bit. This too shall pass. Problem solving. Right. You know, a history of overcoming obstacles. Those things are all, you know, compelling to me as I talk to people about working through their years. Sometimes we pick up expertise. So I talk about my husband as being a poster child, getting a job at 70 because he had an educational background, a building official background. He had been teaching. That was a kind of a unique mix because he somehow managed to get that all in. Yeah. And then, as he said, they hired the old guy. Yeah, so it was great. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Not everyone wants to go get a full-time job at 70, but you know, that worked out there. And then older workers will displace younger. That's like a fixed mindset, right? Like there's only so many people and so many jobs. Right.
I don't think that's the case. We need older workers. We need people to work longer. And we know that it's better for people to work longer, right? It's better for them psychologically and physically to keep working and stay engaged. People are having fewer children than they used to, so we need older workers. It's not just a matter of, you know, they have to retire to make room for the young. Right. There's plenty of work for everybody, really.
And the economy is picking up, so compared to after the crash. Some of the literature I received after speaking with you talked about the phases of health activity as we age. So there's the go-go phase, so I think we want to stay in there as long as we can, where we really don't feel like we have any consistent limitations, or there's no evidence of that. The go-slow phase, okay, of some impairments are starting to creep in, gait or vision or some of the things that just kind of the wear and tear. And then moving more slow-go, slow, and then probably the no-go phase, which is toward the end, and maybe that's what a lot of people think of when they think of aging, where your daily activities, you're really very dependent on other people. Right. Right.
I think something important to note about that is they're not giving you any chronological ages. No. And that's because you can't. Oh, you know, people are so diverse. A 70-year-old is a 70-year-old. You know, one 70-year-old is one 70-year-old. And really what matters is health and physical functioning more than age. You know, you can be 40 and have
serious
a disease
limitations.
and have limitations. Research shows that most older people are able to do everything that they want to do well into the 70s and even the 80s, even if they have a chronic issue, right? Older people are very good at compensating for challenges and declines. So it's not really until the mid-80s that that on average people may need more assistance than they used to. But it's all about, you know, life is about change. There's challenges when you're young, there's challenges when you're older, and it's about adapting. And I think when you're older, you have to maybe make more choices. You have to decide what's important to you and put your energy there and focus on that. And I think if we had a society that was more engaged and interested in helping people stay engaged and active in life and in society for as long as possible, we might be more accepting of
the things that come along.
Different, you know, abilities, whether it's physical limitations or cognitive limitations. People can still contribute to society and should be encouraged to do so and should be allowed to do so. I think that's a better for everyone.
Better way of proceeding. And in terms of being adaptive and that being so important, tell us about how your role and how central became the first university, right, in Connecticut to be identified as an age-friendly university within this global network.
Yeah, so this is really exciting. In May 2017, we joined the Age-Friendly University Global Network. People are probably thinking, what does that mean?
Okay.
And really what it means is that we have said that we've endorsed these 10 principles. So Age-Friendly University movement started in Ireland at Dublin City University. And the idea is that, our population is aging. Universities are part of communities. They're part of aging communities. How can we make sure that we are helping people to have the highest levels of well-being as possible across the entire lifespan? What role can we play in making sure that people are lifelong learners? So there's these 10 principles that just because a university has joined the AFU Global Network, it doesn't mean that you absolutely are, doing all of these things. It's really a framework. We're working towards this. We want to make sure that we're thinking about people across the entire lifespan and that we're including older people in conversations and in opportunities at our university. Are we creating programs that they are interested in? Is education accessible to people? When you retire, that's when you might have time to take some classes or pursue education, or there's a lot of people in midlife who are changing careers. Do we have the programs that they want and need? Educational needs might be a little bit different for someone who's fresh out of high school and trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do in their life. And our universities thinking about what are the needs of people in terms of lifelong learning. I'm very excited that we're part of this network. Since we joined, I think there were about 15 institutions worldwide. Now there's about 30.
Great.
And there's a lot more adding every day. So next steps are really trying to think about how can CCSU as an institution think more broadly about including older people in everything we do, research, education, community engagement, and can we do a better job of educating our current students about opportunities related to aging and older adults, and also help people get a better understanding that we're all getting older, and how you sort of live your life as a younger person will influence what happens to you as an older person, and so there's that continuity. So we want to educate people so that they just don't think, that doesn't apply to me,
right?
Because it applies to all of us.
Because we are younger versions of our older selves,
That's
right?
right.
I heard that on one of the
That's right.
links, and I thought that was very intriguing.
That's right.
Tell me about how you got interested in gerontology and what your path has been.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I got interested, there were a couple things I think that sparked my interest. One, I was always interested in psychology, so that's my background. And, I grew up far away from grandparents, but in my neighborhood, particularly when I lived in Colorado, there were a couple of older women on my street that I sort of got to know and would visit and made friends with. And I always have thought that older people are interesting and have a lot to offer. And then also as a younger person, when I was in high school, I remember people saying to me, oh, high school, that's the best years of your life. Or sometimes people will say college, that's the best years of your life. And I used to think that's really depressing. If the best years of my life are over when I'm 18 or 21, that's really sad. And then after college, I worked at Suffolk University as the secretary, really, for the psychology department, but the chair at the time, Jack Demick, was a developmental psychologist, and his focus was adult development and aging. He really got me thinking about this idea of adult development. Like, we're not done. You're not done at 18. You're so far from done, right? As we all know, those of us who are, working our way through. I just thought, this makes a lot of sense to me. We people aren't done, and I also just couldn't help but notice all the anti-aging sentiment in our society, right? Why are people so afraid of getting older? Why is it so awful? And I found that a bit sad and depressing, because I thought, you know, what's the alternative? I don't
Right.
want to die young. I
Right.
would like to be a very old person, if possible. This was just always back in my mind, wanting to understand why people are so afraid of aging. And then when I went to graduate school, I was working on my PhD in social and developmental psychology and learning a lot about stereotypes and appearance stereotypes and how stereotypes about aging can impact your own aging and your own memory. You know, I was hooked. I wanted to understand that better. And then when I finished my PhD, I applied for this job at Central, where I was kind of going to be the aging expert, which is a little bit scary for a new PhD who kind of has a very narrow focus. And I think over my last, 14 years at Central, I've really become a gerontologist in that I've broadened my view and understanding of the field of aging and gerontology. And so now I'm excited to get more people interested in it and paying attention. Yeah, yeah.
And so what advice would you give your younger self?
Well, I think the advice that I would give my younger self is don't worry so much about what other people are doing, right? Don't compare yourself so much. Just focus on what you should be doing and what's right for you. I think I'm a worrier, and I would worry too much about what other people are thinking, or am I keeping up? And so, now would I have listened at 25 to myself? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe you have to go through life to be more and more comfortable sort of letting that kind of stuff go.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you have a favorite saying or quote?
I think, actually, this is on my door at CCSU. There's two things. One is, only those who do nothing make no mistakes. That's a big one. You just have to go for it. I'm kind of a recovering perfectionist, and I've learned to just go with good enough. If it's good enough, move forward. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to mess up, but you just have to do something. So that's probably my favorite.
Well, thank you so much. This has been great. And I look forward to learning more about this as we go along. And thank you for joining us, and tune in to hear other fascinating women on future episodes of Midlife Matters. I'm Georgian Lussier, your host. Thanks again.